Hello, everyone, and thank you all for joining the stream, for your attention. Today is 27th of May. Now it's 11 o'clock in the morning, Moscow time, and I have prepared quite a number of news and some major developments. And I hope you will find this episode informative and useful. After news segment, I will answer to a question that I received from a member of our Patreon community. There was no other questions either from Patreon or Boosty or other support channels. And so, yes, that's been said. Dear friends, let me also mention that yesterday I did not make evening update because, well, these two, double streams daily are really overwhelming. It's just a bit too much. And evening, it happened that evening live streams were usually at the time when big channels had live streams, and therefore, my small project cannot really compete with these channels. So therefore, I don't think it's worth continuing these evening updates. Although maybe I will change time. Maybe I will do sometimes at 5 o'clock in the evening second updates, or I may actually add some walk and talk type of videos whenever there is plenty of news to report about, and I might publish this walk and talk video. But in the morning, I will try to maintain these live stream programs either at 11 o'clock as it is now, or maybe I will shift time for 10 o'clock. Let's see. I have not made decision on that yet. And so, yes, okay, that's being said. Let's go through some news now. And first of all, I will start with the Russian reaction or Kremlin's reaction on Trump's statements that he made yesterday in regards to Russian actions when it comes to long-range strikes on Kiev-controlled territory. We all know, I spoke about it yesterday, that Trump went to insult Russian president, Trump went to insult Russian people and Russia big time, which was absolutely unacceptable, obviously. And we have some response from Kremlin, which is that, well, according to press spokesman of the Russian president, Dmitry Peskov, Trump's statements were emotional overload, results of their emotional overload. Well, quite a mild response. Probably you would agree with me, especially if you take in account that Trump did not just insult Russian president while calling him a crazy, but Trump actually stated with his words indirectly that Russian lives are worthless, means nothing. Because we all remember what Trump said, isn't it? That Moscow had no reason to launch long-range strikes on Kiev-controlled territory. And he says this while perfectly well being informed, obviously, that for quite a while, Kiev regime, with the assistance of NATO countries, are launching volleys after volleys of the drones to strike deep into Russian territory, all of their European part, including on Moscow, right? And dozens of civilians were killed and wounded as a result of these strikes. And still, Trump went to say that Moscow had no reason for this retaliatory action. And therefore, I think Moscow's response should be much more stronger than this statement of Peskov that it was emotional overload on part of Trump. I mean, really? Are you kidding me? What is this? Let's go through this news. Anyways, the presidential press secretary, Dmitry Peskov, noted that U.S. President Donald Trump's statements about Russia's actions in Ukraine were driven by the tensions of the moment and their emotions. According to Peskov, the beginning of the negotiation process is a very important moment which affects the emotional background of all participants in the situation. Okay, by the way, I don't know what to even say about this. And then he went to actually explain why Russia was conducting these long-range strikes. I don't know for whom. to whom he was saying this stuff, because Trump is briefed on a daily basis, right, by his dozens of secret services or whomever about major developments in this world, and including about Ukrainian crisis. And he knows perfectly well that Kyiv regime, with the assistance of US included, was launching hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, thousands of drones, actually, by the way, if you take last week, to strike deep into Russian territory. But anyways, let's go. And by the way, Kyiv regime actually understood Trump's statements exactly as it was said, that Russian lives are worthless, mean nothing. And they launched last night, earlier of this morning, over 100 drones again to strike deep into Russian territory and kill more Russian citizens. And well, according to the Defense Ministry, at least 99 drones were intercepted, including 56 drones over the bordering region of Belgorod. So we have some more details here. So between 8 p.m. yesterday and 7 a.m. this morning, Moscow time, on May 27th, air defense on duty intercepted and destroyed 99 Ukrainian fixed-wing unmanned aerial vehicles, drones. Of them, 56 drones were intercepted over the Belgorod region, 25 drones over the Voronezh region, 7 drones over the Vladimir region, 5 over Kaluga region, 4 over Tula region, and 1 each over the Rostov and the Lipetsk regions. So, I mean, that's the result. That's the result, by the way. Kyiv regime and its NATO backers understood Trump's statements exactly as it was. Kill as many Russians as you can, as many civilians as you can, and that's what they try to do. And well, over 100 drones were launched, 99 was intercepted. And still, by the way, Peskov, press spokesman of the Russian president, went to explain why Russia was conducting retaliatory strikes. And there was last night, by the way, surprisingly, there was no massive Russian retaliatory strikes. I don't know why, but there was none. No reports about it, at least in Russian segment of internet. Maybe later on we will learn some more about it last night, but I did not see no reports about missiles being launched or drones to take out military and logistical infrastructure of the Kyiv regime. But anyways, let's go through this news. Russia's armed forces have been delivering strikes on Ukrainian military facilities in response to Ukrainian attacks on Russian civilian infrastructure. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said at the news briefing. So yes, I mean, he went to, try to explain to whomever, by the way, I don't know what was the point in saying this. He tried to explain what was Russia doing and why was Russia conducting this retaliatory strike. As if Trump has no idea what was going on anybody else, by the way, who is at least slightly interested in this crisis, right? I don't know. I'm not satisfied, by the way, with this response from Kremlin. Definitely not. Maybe Putin himself don't care that Trump is calling him a crazy madman and so on. If Putin don't care, I don't care for sure, right? This comes with the territory. When you are a public figure, you might be called names, and they are used to it, I guess. But Trump downgraded the lives of Russian citizens. Trump insulted Russia and Russian citizens with that statement, and I think Moscow's reaction on that had to be very strong. But well, I mean, you tell me what kind of response is this, that Trump's statements were emotional overload. Really, man. And by the way, some may say that what Kremlin is trying to avoid further escalation, and maybe some people in Russian leadership are still thinking that there might be some de-escalation, and Washington may actually play some positive role in the escalation. And there may be some people in Russian leadership still believes that Trump and his inner circle is serious about pulling out US from this proxy war. And they are mistaken, of course. They are mistaken on that because yesterday afternoon, number of media outlets, by the way, here in Russia, and I guess worldwide, beginning to report that US, Germany, UK, France have lifted restrictions on long-range weapons for Ukraine. So that's the reality, by the way. There is no plans on the escalation, not in US, not in UK, France, Germany, or any other hostile nation. There is no such a plans. It's all games, right? It's all games, and unfortunately, Trump and his team did manage to conduct this disinformation campaign quite well, while they were diverting clearly attention of Russian leadership, and one may argue quite successfully, while acting as if they are for the escalation. But look at this report. US, Germany, UK, France have lifted restrictions on long-range weapons for Ukraine. That means that not just Germany will deliver and maybe already transfer the long-range Taurus cruise missiles to Kiev-controlled territory and its military personnel to operate with these weapon systems, but potentially US also transferred its long-range missiles to Kiev regime. Nothing to be said about France and UK. They already are, using against Russia their Storm Shadow and Scalp EG missiles, right? So that's where West stands. More war, more destruction, more killing. And if anybody thinks that West or US leadership is for the escalation, then I don't know, man. That is a mistake. Anyways, let's go through these details. The US, Germany, Britain, and France have lifted restrictions on supply of long-range weapons to Kiev. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said this in an interview with their VDR TV channel. We have some quotes here. There are no longer any restrictions on the range of weapon supplies to Ukraine, neither by the British, nor by the French, nor by US, nor by Americans, nor by us, and not by Americans, said Merz during this interview. This means that Ukraine can now defend itself, including, for example, by striking military positions on Russian territory. Until a certain point, it could not do this. Yes, I mean, Russian air defense systems should get ready, of course, to deal with their German Taurus missiles now that have a 500-kilometer range, which means, theoretically speaking, NATO countries can strike with their Taurus missiles on Moscow, for example. Attempt at least, right? And one should keep in mind that US also has a long-range cruise missiles, and at some point Kiev was even demanding US long-range cruise missiles, and who knows, maybe Trump already delivered those weapons to Kiev-controlled territory. So I was correct, by the way, all along when I was saying that before we will see the escalation, there will be at least one or possibly several phases of further escalation in this proxy war that West is waging against Russia. And that's exactly what is going to happen. And meanwhile, to continue exactly basically on this topic, that no one ever should think that Trump and his inner circle are some sort of a peacekeepers or peacemakers, or they want peace. No, man, they are hawks, right? They are all about war and killing of people. That's what they are, man. So Trump considers now additional sanctions on Russia, potentially this week. So US President Donald Trump is considering imposing sanctions on Moscow this week, frustrated by Russian President Vladimir Putin's actions and the slow pace of peace talks. Yeah, of course. The Wall Street Journal reported, citing people familiar with Trump's plans. Okay, impose those sanctions. Impose if we care. So that's where situation stands, dear friends. No more. I made mistake myself, and I spoke about it yesterday. I was hoping that maybe Trump and his inner circle are really for the escalation, and they will use off-ramp that was created by Russian side to pull out US from this proxy war. But I was wrong, by the way, and I have to admit that, right? That I made mistake, I was wrong. I apologize for that. because I think it was a big mistake on my part. How could I believe even for a second that anyone from Western political class could be trusted? I mean, that was a big error on my part, by the way, right? And I'm afraid there are still people here in Russia, and unfortunately, most likely even in the Russian leadership, that still think that maybe Trump and his administration is about the escalation. No, man, they are not. Unfortunately, they are not. Meanwhile, Russia continues to work on memorandum that was agreed during the recent direct talks in Istanbul between Russian and Ukrainian delegations. So this morning, press spokeswoman of the Russian Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova, stated that Russian side continues to work on memorandum on Ukrainian settlement and will hand it over to Kiev as soon as the document is ready. And she also went to specify a little bit what this memorandum is about. So the memorandum on Ukraine will contain principles and terms for a settlement, said Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova. And key points are Moscow is developing a draft memorandum regarding the future peace treaty. Memorandum will be handed over to Ukrainian side as soon as it is prepared. Russia expects that Kiev will submit its developments on the memorandum simultaneously with Moscow. Kiev, with its attacks, is trying to show that it is capable of conducting negotiations from position of strength, but is demonstrating its insignificance. Whatever that means. China opposes Kiev's baseless accusations and political manipulations regarding the alleged supply of Chinese products to Russian military factories. Basically, key points is that this memorandum will be about some details about future peace treaty. And as soon as this memorandum will be, and the ceasefire, by the way, how ceasefire could be reached. Maybe it's a timeline there, but we will have no good understanding of what these memorandums are about until they are actually presented to the public. And I'm not even sure it's worth spending time on this, because we all understand that globalist control regimes in the West are allies of the globalists, neocons, and therefore Washington, which is completely controlled by neocons, by the way, there can be no doubts about that no more. I mean, they are all about prolongation of this conflict, right? So what is the point to continue this nonsensical activity in regards to this so-called direct talks with the Kiev regime? I don't get it. Kiev regime decides nothing, right? So what is the point to talk to someone that cannot decide anything? I don't know. Hello everyone, I hope you find informative and useful this short clip from main news update, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything. It might help to deal with the algorithm and reach wider audience. And if you like my work in general and want to support to save this media project, you can assist through several ways. You can donate to this project through PayPal platform or Boosty, also with the crypto currencies, or you can subscribe to my Patreon page and page on Boosty, where I have quite a lot of extra content on regular basis. All the links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And of course, many thanks to everyone who already helped and continues to support. Thank you.